Hello, pre-algebra. Welcome back to another edition of our screencast series. We're on lesson 5 of unit 10. It actually is lining up with the chapter this time around. Using sampling to predict. We have our quiz coming up next, so feel free to go back and review the material before this. So what are we talking about with sampling techniques? So we're trying to figure out a way to represent a large group with a smaller group. And when you want to do that, you want to look for unbiased ways of doing it as opposed to biased. Okay, so bias is when you favor certain things. Like you might interview just people that live in the city. You're ignoring all the people that live in the suburbs and in the rural counties. So what you want to do is you want to have a way to randomly, so that it's not biased, interview as many groups of people as possible and as many interviewees possible out of the population. Okay, you don't want to just interview 10 people and say, America says, okay, because that doesn't work. Okay, so what are your three types of unbiased? You have simple, random, so you just pick, in this case, you pick 30 IDs out of all the students. Okay, just add a random, you just pull them off using the computer. Stratified random would be where you're looking at those groups. So a certain number of people from the city, a certain number from suburbs, a certain number from rural counties or in the country. And that way you're interviewing all the different places people live. And then lastly, systematic. This occurs usually in stores or restaurants where you're interviewing every 10th person that clicks on your website, or you're interviewing every 15 minutes. You interview someone at the restaurant. Okay, now biased are useful in certain ways, depends on what you want, but in general, they're not as valid as unbiased. So this is if you just interview the first 10 people you see, or inspect the first 30 things that come off the assembly line. Next, you have voluntary response, which is where you get people to respond that want to respond, whether it's positively or negatively. You're going to miss all the people in the middle that don't want to respond. So you need to make sure, in this case, so they're having seniors respond to the principal. Okay, only positives and negatives are going to come in there. You're not going to have that large chunk in the middle that maybe you don't feel like doing the survey. So let's take a look here. Number 1, to determine the passengers' carry-on bags to be inspected. Every 8th person checked in will have his or her bags inspected. This is unbiased because it's every 8th. It's random, it's systematic, okay, because every 8 people gets their bag checked. Now, can we use biased and unbiased samples to predict the future? And yes, to a degree, you can predict the future or represent larger populations. So here we have 2,000 watches made. First 15 watches are checked. So we can stop there. This is biased. Okay, this is convenience sampling at its best. First 10 students in line, first 15 watches off the assembly. So we're going to stop there. This is biased and this is not valid. Example 3 on page 464. After finishing the meal, every 5th person that left the restaurant was surveyed. So every 5th, that's random. This is systematic. Random. Okay, and this would be valid. So when you have valid results, what you can do is you can use to predict. So 12 out of 20 people had dessert. We want to know out of 100 people how many people should have dessert. So we take that times 100. You could turn 12/20ths into a decimal. You could set up a proportion. You could do it like this, cross multiply and divide by 20. However you want to do it. I think the easiest way is just take the fraction times 100 and you get 60 people will probably buy dessert. Well, 60 peps. All right, and that's it. That's all you have to do for this lesson. If you have any questions, talk to me in class or message me on Canvas or email. And remember, do whatever it takes to dominate this lesson.